intoxicated, and police later found his insulin pump. Police say they have no dashboard footage of Grgurlin's arrest. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Both Democratic and Republican members of the Senate Banking Committee lambasted the Bush administration's proposed $700 billion bailout on Tuesday. Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson, Federal Reserve Chair Ben Bernanke repeatedly clashed with almost every senator on the committee, all of whom focused on Wall Street's culpability for the crisis. Many also brought up executive pay and emphasized the need for oversight of the Treasury. Section 8 of Secretary Paulson's bailout proposal explicitly denies any check on his powers. It says, quote, decisions by the Secretary pursuant to the authority of this Act are non-reviewable and committed to agency discretion and may not be reviewed by any court of law or any administrative agency. Paulson was defensive about this point in his opening statement to the committee. He said he did not want to be presumptuous and include an oversight mechanism in the bailout plan.
We gave you a simple 3-page legislative outline, and I thought it would have been presumptuous for us on that outline to come up with an oversight mechanism. That's the role of Congress. That's something we're going to work on together. So if any of you felt that I didn't believe that we needed oversight, I believe we need oversight. We need oversight. We need protection. We need transparency. I want it. We all want it. And we need to do that in a way that lets this system, let this program work effectively, quickly, because it needs to work effectively and quickly, and it needs to get the job done. Now, the market turmoil we are experiencing today poses great risk to U.S. taxpayers. When the financial system doesn't work as it should, Americans' personal savings and the abilities of consumers and businesses to finance spending, investment, and job creation are threatened. The ultimate taxpayer protection will be the market stability provided as we remove the troubled assets from our financial system. Don't forget that. If this system has to work, and has to work right, and that will be the ultimate market protection. I am convinced that this bold approach will cost American families far less than the alternative. A continuing series of financial institution failures and frozen credit markets unable to fund everyday needs and economic expansion. Again, I'm frustrated. The taxpayer is on the hook. The taxpayer is already on the hook. The taxpayer already is going to suffer the consequences if things don't work the way they should work. And so the best protection for the taxpayer, and the first protection for the taxpayer, is to have this work.
Treasury Secretary Paulson speaking for the Senate Banking Committee. Federal Reserve Chair Ben Bernanke also tried to sell the bailout to skeptical committee members. He warned of a definite recession in the absence of a bailout.
Mr. Chairman, the financial markets are in quite fragile condition, and I think absent a plan, they will certainly get worse. But even at their current state, they are not serving the necessary function to support the economy. Credit is not being provided. Secretary Paulson mentioned non-financial companies are not able to finance themselves overnight. Credit is just not going to be available. It's going to also affect savers because of the value of their assets that they have. So even in the current condition, even if things don't get severely worse, but I think they would get worse without some kind of action, this will be a major drag on the U.S. economy and will greatly impede the ability of the economy to recover in a healthy way.
But Congress did not appear to be easily swayed. Senate Banking Committee Chair Chris Dodd of Connecticut said he found Paulson's proposal, quote, unacceptable.
Barely 72 hours ago, Secretary Paulson presented a proposal that he believes, and others do as well, is urgently needed to protect our economy. This proposal is stunning and unprecedented in its scope and lack of detail, I might add. It would allow the Secretary of the Treasury to intervene in our economy by purchasing at least $700 billion of toxic assets. It would allow the Secretary to hold on to those assets for years and to pay millions of dollars to hand-picked firms to manage those assets. It would do nothing, in my view, to help a single family save a home, at least not up front. It would do nothing to stop even a single CEO from dumping billions of dollars of toxic assets on the backs of American taxpayers, but at the same time do nothing to stop the very authors of this calamity to walk away with bonuses and golden parachutes worth millions of dollars. And it would allow this Secretary and his successors to act with utter and absolute impunity without review by any agency or a court of law. After reading this proposal, I can only conclude that it is not just our economy that is at risk, but our Constitution as well.
The committee's leading Republican, Senator Richard Shelby of Alabama, also did not mince words in his criticism of Paulson's, quote, ad hoc plan.
We're now facing the most serious economic crisis, as Chairman Dodd said, in a generation. So far, the Treasury Department and the Fed's response to the crisis has been a series of ad hoc measures. First came the bailout of Bear Stearns, which we were told was unavoidable. Then came Lehman Brothers, which was allowed to fail. And then just last week, the Fed and Treasury organized a bailout of AIG. I believe the absence of a clear and comprehensive plan for addressing this crisis has injected additional uncertainty into our markets and has undetermined the ability of our markets to tackle this crisis on their own. Unfortunately, the Treasury Department's latest proposal continues, I believe, its ad hoc approach, but on a much grander scale. The Treasury's plan has little for those outside of the financial industry. It is aimed at rescuing the same financial institutions that created this crisis with the sloppy underwriting and reckless disregard for the risk they were creating, taking, or passing on to others. Wall Street bet that the government would rescue them if they got into trouble. It appears that bet may be the one that pays off. Once again, what troubles me most is that we have been given no credible assurances that this plan will work. We could very well spend $700 billion or $1 trillion and not resolve the crisis.
Kentucky Republican Senator Jim Bunning said the Treasury's bailout plan is tantamount to, quote, financial socialism.
We cannot make bad mortgages go away. We cannot make the losses that our financial institutions are facing go away. Someone must take those losses. We can either let the people who made the bad decisions bear the consequences of their actions, or we can spread that pain to others. And that is exactly what the Secretary's proposal is to do. Take Wall Street's pain and spread it to the taxpayers. The Paulson plan will not help struggling homeowners pay their mortgages. The Paulson plan will not bring, Paulson plan will spend $700 billion worth of taxpayers' money to prop up and clean up the balance sheets of Wall Street. This massive bailout is not a solution. It is a financial socialism, and it's un-American.
Ohio Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown grilled Paulson and Bernanke about how those who lost their homes in the mortgage crisis feel about the bailout.
I don't think a single call to my office when this proposal has been positive. I don't believe I've gotten one yet of the literally thousands of emails and calls we're getting. Part of this reflects outrage by taxpayers making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 a year, bailing out people whose country club memberships cost many times that. Part of it is, I think, an attitude. Wall Street, to most people in my state, I think, certainly to many of them, Wall Street didn't care one bit what it was doing to neighborhoods in Cleveland and Dayton and Toledo. It didn't see the devastation. It didn't feel the pain. And my question for each of you is, do you think Wall Street owes the American people an apology?
Wall Street made a lot of mistakes. Regulators made a lot of mistakes. We're going to have to go through all that. But let me just say this. People on Main Street who think that Wall Street is somewhere far away and has whatever happens there has no implications for their lives are just misinformed, because if Wall Street and credit markets freeze up.
People know that what happens in Wall Street has an effect on their lives. That's not the question. The question is, does Wall Street owe the American people an apology?
Wall Street itself is a abstraction. There are many people who made big mistakes and many regulators who made mistakes, and we need to figure out what those were and make sure they don't happen again.
Secretary Paulson.
Yeah. You know, I share the outrage that people have. It's embarrassing to look at this, and I think it's embarrassing for the United States of America. There's a lot of blame to go around, a lot of blame, and a lot of blame with the big financial institutions that engaged, and that's where I've started, with this irresponsible lending, the overly complicated, complex securities that no one understood as well as they should, and it turns out they didn't understand them themselves. The rating agencies that rated those securities, blame to the people that made loans they shouldn't have made, to some people that took out loans they shouldn't have taken out. There's to regulators. So there's no doubt about that. But what we're focused on now is, and what I think your constituents want to hear is, let's fix the problem in the way that is going to have the least negative impact on them, and then let's go out and deal with all these problems